Welcome to the new episode of the Mind Body Revolution podcast. Today, I am joined by the one and only Ryan Clarkin. He is a powerhouse mindset and business coach who has impacted millions of people online and has hundreds of thousands of followers that he has helped transform their lives from the inside out. Ryan truly has a heart to impact people and is ultimately the reason I am here hosting this podcast. In this episode, Ryan shares how his own transformation journey started with deep insecurity to stepping on stage as a national physique competitor and ultimately becoming a highly sought after mindset and business coach. We unpack what really holds women back from lasting fat loss, from unrealistic body standards and burnout, to the belief that you need to spend hours a day in the gym to actually see results. We talk about how to overcome the mindset of all or nothing, how to train smarter, not longer, and how to finally make time for your health, even as a busy mom or career woman. We're also going to dive into supplements that actually work, talk about some fitness myths and bro science, and much more. So if you are tired of the quick fixes that never work, frustrated with the slow to no progress that doesn't last, or just trying to feel like you again, this episode is the wake-up call and action plan you have been waiting for. All right, welcome back to Mind Body Revolution. I am super excited to introduce our first guest, Ryan Clarkin, my coach, my mentor. We started working together, it was a few years ago back, through a random pre-Facebook challenge that he hosted, and it completely propelled my want and desire to build a business and be here doing this podcast. So Ryan, welcome. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited and honored to be on the show and create a ton of value for everyone tuning in.
Awesome. So Ryan, I certainly know from all of our time together that you're a mindset and business coach now, but when you actually started, coincidentally and very beneficial for me, you were in the fitness coaching space. So what really was it that got you to start in the fitness coaching?
Yeah, so it's interesting. At the beginning of my journey when it came to fitness, I always believe that our purpose tends to be discovered through a relative amount of pain. And so when I started in my journey, I remember a time it started off, I was pretty young. I was in high school. And I remember feeling so self-conscious and so insecure when it came to every year we had swimming in gym for part. And I remember I was like there's one other kid who didn't take his shirt off and he was very overweight. I wasn't super overweight. I was what some people would call skinny fat. And I, just looked awkward. I felt like I looked awkward with my shirt off. And I had a lot of judgment and insecurities around that. And I remember someone asking like, Ryan, why aren't you, why is your shirt still on? And I'm like, I'm just really cold. I'll take it off right before we get into the pool. But really, I was really self-conscious and really insecure. And I ended up meeting this kid, Mike, who was a star athlete in insane shape, like incredible shape, one of the top people in the country in terms of track. And we became best friends. And he ended up showing me how to, like, inspiring me and showing me how to work out. And once I started working out and seeing it kind of became an obsession because I was like, wait, how I was doesn't need to, like, how I am doesn't need to be forever. How I was didn't have to determine the rest of my life. And so what I ended up doing was learning everything that I could, obsessing over fitness, nutrition, health and wellness. And then I ended up 2 years later competing at a bodybuilding show in Cleveland, Ohio. It's one of the biggest in the country, and being shirtless, confident in front of 1,000 people. And I ended up out competing some of the other competitors. I placed in the top 5, which is good for your first competition. Everyone wants to win, but even my best friend who's an IFBB pro now, he got rocked in his first competitions. But it was such a transformative journey of building my confidence, of creating something that I was proud of taking back control over my life. And through that knowledge, naturally, I wanted to start teaching and helping the people around me. And one of those people that I helped was my friend at the time, Grant. We're still friends, and he had a massive fitness transformation. People thought he was on steroids because he got such good results in high school, and it was a mixture between really hard work, great genetics that he didn't even know about before he started weight training, and science-based nutrition, not the bro science stuff, not the myths that a lot of people can get lost in. And we'll talk more about what those myths are later on in this podcast, but really science-based fitness and health and nutrition that made all the difference so that we could really be optimized. He ended up competing as well. I ended up coaching tons of people, ended up becoming the youngest fitness coach in history to turn a physique competitor pro at the time, helped people become fitness models, coached competitors, and then also everyday people, busy moms, high achievers, people who just wanted to get in better shape. And there were some real challenges that came along that journey, and it was a great learning experience for me as well. But challenges around, how do you work out when you're not feeling motivated? How do you bust through a plateau when you're stuck? What are the best exercises that you can do in a short period of time? And so all those lessons that I learned, many of these lessons I'm going to be having hopefully the opportunity to dive into on this podcast today and to share with your listeners. So that really was my journey, and it was a journey of really learning to do and discovering that I could do what I loved as a business and a purpose and a way to not only make money but to create real impact. So really a beautiful, fulfilling journey that evolved since then.
Awesome. Phenomenal. That's just a great story. And I want to point out, when you reference the insecurities, that's not just something that women feel, right? It's on both sides. And we're going to dive into some of that in this episode too, which I'm super excited for. But as you started to work with other people, you made a very intentional decision to not just call yourself a fitness coach or a personal trainer. You made sure that people knew you were a fitness and mindset coach. And why was that so important?
Yeah, part of it was a little bit to position myself differently because there's so many personal trainers. There wasn't really many fitness coaches at the time, but the core reason was that I realized that really like the fitness journey really like starts in the mind. It's like you can't go to the gym or exercise. You don't necessarily have to go to the gym, but you can't exercise consistently if you're not feeling motivated, if you're not able to follow through. You can't be on track with your nutrition if you're not disciplined enough to at least track. Like one of the things that I did, like my competitor that turned pro, we had him eating pizza during his prep. But the reason why, and you think about like a bodybuilding prep and it's like, oh, chicken and rice. No, I had my competitors eating pizza and getting insanely shredded because we were able, and obviously that wasn't the only thing that they ate, but like we were tracking their proteins, their carbs, their fats. It doesn't even need to be like, oh, I can't eat any ice cream or anything like that, but having the discipline to, track, like if you don't have the discipline to track your food and be in relationship with that, and that's part of your protocol, you're really going to struggle to get results because you're not going to know where you're going wrong. So it really was a journey that started with the mind, and there are many aspects of it. Even I remember supporting a client that really struggled with binge eating, and that tied right into mindset as well, and we created a shift as well that helped her get out of that pattern. So I just realized that the mind and our mindset and our belief system, our habits, has almost everything to do with the results that we create with our physical body and in every part of our life. So it helped the client understand as well that this isn't just an outer journey. This is an inner journey as well. There's no point in transforming your body if you're still going to feel insecure about the way that you look. So I also supported my clients with self-love and self-confidence and their relationship with their body as well, which was a game changer as well, and extremely rare because all the other personal trainers and coaches were just focusing on the outer reality.
Yeah, definitely. And as somebody who, has gone through a fitness transformation, still goes through it because it's never over, right? We're always going to be working towards something. Um, if your mind's not in it, it's not going to matter if you can, bench 150. You're eventually just
Mhm,
going to stop. So
mhm,
huge, huge piece of that is hence the name of this podcast, Mind Body Revolution, right? We're not just
mhm.
focused on um the physique. And we don't hear a lot of people talk about that. We don't hear a lot about, your mindset and understanding, differences between motivation and discipline. But we hear people give a lot of advice. And what is some advice that you've heard that's popular, but is likely some of the worst advice that people are getting around getting in shape?
What I have to say around this is be careful of the bro science. And what I mean by bro science is when somebody at the gym or even a personal trainer, because a lot of personal trainers, you might think they have expertise, but they don't. They paid $100 for a test and they got certified because they memorized, you know, a short packet. Be careful of bro science. And the best way to be able to separate what is bro science from actual science is by empowering yourself to get educated and study on your own. It was the difference between, at the time for me, reading bodybuilding forums or newspapers or blogs and actually listening to podcasts from people like Dr. Lane Norton, who have a PhD when it comes to um, studying the science behind muscle growth and exactly what causes a muscle to grow. So that's what I would suggest is, instead of saying this is the worst piece of advice I got in general, I would say something a little more broad of be very careful of bro science because it can lead you to wasting a lot of time. There's a lot of people that just they're they're too confident for their own good. Like I think people should I like confident people, but confident people who aren't informed can do more damage than good. So just know
Absolutely.
that. And the more you can empower yourself to learn from trusted sources, from credible sources, and also to understand the science, the better. And a simple thing that you can do is, whenever you hear something, any form of advice, run it through Chat GPT and ask Chat GPT, what is the science behind this? Is there science that actually supports this statement? If so, what are the studies and what were the findings from those studies? And that's a great way to validate any information that you receive.
Yeah, awesome. Because to your point, there's a lot out there, and anybody can be anybody they want when they're on the internet. And it's
Yeah.
easy for somebody to project confidence, and you're bought in, and that's what you want to do. And then, you put forth that effort just to realize, I can't lose 50 pounds in 5 days. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And when we
And
talk about that motivation
really quick,
piece,
Sierra, I wanted
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to add one more thing. Another thing to be careful of is a lot of the information in the fitness industry is pushed by the supplement companies. So it almost seems like there's a supplement for everything. There's your pre-workout, there's your intra workout, there's your post workout. And so it's like, how many freaking supplements do you need? And I'm not anti supplement, but you don't need a supplement for when you wake up. You don't need a supplement for when you go to the bathroom. You don't need a supplement before, intra, after workout. You don't need a supplement when you go and you use the bathroom at the gym. You don't need a supplement before you go to bed. Like,
yeah.
isn't it interesting that there's something for everything? Like, that is on purpose. And so we need to understand that like the fitness industry is so greatly influenced. We have fitness influencers, and then there's how fitness influencers want to make money. So how do they make money? They make money through their products. And it's not about being skeptical about supplements or products. It's about understanding that, again, not everything that you are going to hear is legitimate, and being thorough when it comes to like really creating a deep understanding of things. Here's an example. I think probably some of the worst advice that I've ever received is someone saying, you need an intra workout amino acid supplement so that your muscles don't break down when you're working out. The whole point of working out is so that your muscles break down. Okay. There's catabolic, which is muscle breakdown, and then there's anabolic, which is muscle repair. So your muscles are going to break down if you put them under stress. Your digestion isn't that fast. You're not going to be drinking something during your workout. Immediately your muscles are like, oh, I'm not going to break down because these amino acids are here. That's not going to happen. So that's probably what I would say around that. I'm very skeptical around intra workouts in general, just from my understanding of the science behind what is actually helpful when it comes to building muscle.
Yeah, and let's keep going with that, because with supplements, my gosh, you walk into a store these days and there's 50 of the same thing. And what am I taking? And this one says I'll burn fat, and this says I'll burn fat, and this says I'll burn fat, and none of it actually is, right? So, if you really think about, just break it down for our listeners, what are the top 3 supplements that you would recommend for, weight loss, building muscle, getting in shape, let's say?
So this is assuming that you've got all your bases covered. You're on top of your sleep. You're getting all your nutrients, the nutrients that you need through food. Your training protocol is on point. So the best 3 supplements that I've ever experienced that I would recommend to anyone. Number 1 is a protein powder. This could be a whey protein. If you are sensitive to dairy, you could do a pea protein, but you're going to want to add something to that to help trigger protein synthesis, which is muscle growth, which I'll talk about with number 3. The second is creatine, specifically creatine monohydrate, anywhere from 3 to 5 grams a day. There's been over 1,000 studies done on creatine to support its safety and efficacy and to show that it really works. Studies that compare placebo to creatine over an 8 to 12 week time frame show that, the people in the placebo group gained about 1.5 pounds of muscle, and then the group that took creatine built anywhere from 2.5 to 4 pounds of muscle. And so there's no doubt that creatine supports when it comes to muscle growth. It also has energy benefits because it supports ATP production, which is the energy currency of the body, essentially, one of the major energy currencies of the body. And then there's also studies that show that if you're sleep deprived, you can take 20 grams, you can load creatine, and it's shown to support in alertness and focus and memory. So there's a cognitive benefit as well. So I would say start with 2, 3, 5 grams. See how your body does. If you do well with it, then keep taking it. Obviously, run all this by your doctor. If you don't do well, then don't take it. Some supplements are going to work great for some people. Some aren't going to work as well for other people. And the third is one that isn't talked about too often. And it's something called HMB free acid. And it's another supplement that has been studied that supports muscle protein synthesis. And I can say from my own personal experience, when I took it, I stopped feeling sore in the gym. I noticed a significant difference between when I would take it and when I wouldn't. And some of the studies show similar results to creatine. So it's a really solid thing. to stack with creatine. One of the reasons why scientists believe that it's so effective is because of its connection to an amino acid called L-leucine. L-leucine is basically the signal amino acid to help trigger protein synthesis, which is your muscles actually growing. So the reason why you might want to take L-leucine if you don't take a whey protein is because with something like a pea protein, you're only getting about 1.5 to 2 grams of L-leucine per serving, depending on the size of the serving. You need at least 3 grams to trigger that signal that says, okay, now I'm going to really build muscle to trigger that protein synthesis response. Nutrition wise, when you weight train, you trigger that response. When you resistance train, you trigger that response. Or when you stress a muscle, you trigger that response. But nutritionally, that L-leucine or HMB can support that as well. So a protein to support you in hitting your protein goals and to help trigger that L-leucine, the creatine, and then an HMB free acid.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll say I personally use 2 of those. I use the pea protein and then the creatine, and I've noticed a large difference in my training when I take the creatine to when I don't. And the more I learn about it with the cognitive benefits and just the overall support of the body, I've got my parents taking it now, so
Same.
I'm big on this. So if you're not
Yeah.
taking it, I recommend, but check with your doctor, of course, because I am not a doctor. Out of those 3 supplements or any supplements that you've taken in general, is there really one that you were really shocked by the results that you got?
Yeah. 2 come to mind. The first one is that HMB free acid. So I was really shocked when I took the HMB free acid. I just felt so much stronger in the gym. And specifically, like when I stopped taking it, I noticed a significant difference. And there was no other supplement that I ever took where I noticed that, where it's like, oh, I'm coming off of something. The other supplement was, I think it was like something like Animal M Stack, and there's something called ecdysterone in it, which I wouldn't recommend widely to people. It's not interesting, but it's not widely studied. There's some very interesting studies on ecdysterone and muscle growth. But that's when me and my buddy took it, and he like hit an inflection point, and he was like, are there steroids in this? Because I'm like getting huge. There isn't too much science on it, so that's why I don't like recommend it widely. But it is one of those compounds that are very interesting as well. And the theory behind it is that it has similar effects to anabolic steroids in terms of the way that it functions, but without the hormone aspect, without altering testosterone. Something interesting to keep your eye on. Again, probably shouldn't take it. There's not enough research on it.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. So, when we take some of these supplements and we've talked about the motivation and, getting the diet tuned in and the training. But what about like going to the gym? So I personally, I don't go to a gym. I am very fortunate enough to have the space and the equipment at home. My biggest going to the gym is when I travel for work and I have to use the hotel gym.
Yep.
Right. So when you have people who either don't have the get up and go to get to the gym, or I hate going to the gym, how can they work, or how can we as coaches work with them to really shift past that feeling? So either they'll go to the gym or maybe even just start working out before they get there.
You don't have to go to the gym to lose weight. You don't have to go to the gym to get in the best shape of your life. When I worked with clients around helping them get in the best shape of their life, the first question that I would ask them is, what are your favorite forms of exercise? What do you love to do when it comes to exercise? Some of them, I don't love to exercise at all. Well, you move around, you do something. Do you like tennis? Do you like swimming? Do you like going for walks? Like, what do you enjoy? And I think people overlook the fact that they can burn so many calories and there are so many options when it comes to doing things that support weight loss. One of the things that has been super fun for me that I've been doing lately is pickleball. Like, and I remember first time I played pickleball, I played for like 2 hours, pretty much straight, some breaks in between. And when I was done, I was wiped. And I was like, how many calories do you burn in 2 hours of pickleball? And I looked it up and it was like between like around 700. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I
Sign
don't
me up.
think anything else I could do to burn 700 calories and like have fun. It just goes by like that. Usually the thought of burning 700 calories is like miserable, but it was a blast. I was having the time of my life. There's cognitive benefits as well. So, you know, discover what are the things that you actually enjoy doing physical activity wise, and how can you fit more of that into your life. And of course, if you want extra help with that, piecing that together, creating a protocol, definitely would recommend working with Ceara to piece that together in a way that really can help you reach your goals.
Oh, thank you for that. And that's a huge, like, exercising is so many exercises are underrated, right? Even just walking. Everybody assumes you've got to be, you know, doing the burpees, which I'll do, but I'll, curse in my mind the whole time because they're terrible. But, you do have to do some things that you don't necessarily love, but there's so many things that you do every day that you enjoy that
Mhm.
help get you even closer to those goals. And I want to dive a little bit more into, what the best types of workouts are. But before we get into that, people sometimes go into a fitness regimen all on their own, something they randomly found a video online, they assume it's going to work for them. But what is one thing that you can kind of pinpoint with people's fitness regimen that is actually hurting them more than it is helping them, giving them the benefits?
Mm. Well, I think that it's the thought that in order to get a workout, like if I don't have 45 minutes to an hour to get a workout in, then I might as well just not do it. It's this like fixed mindset of like, oh, I don't have the time to work out. When if you if you have 10 minutes, you can get a great workout in 10 minutes. So that's what I would say. It's less of an actual workout piece, more of a mindset piece. But the other thing that comes to mind, the number one thing I see people missing when it comes to their fitness regimens that's hurting them more than helping them is they aren't training for posture. Like, and why would I train for posture? When you train, like, we'll use men as an example in particular, but it can apply to women as well. One of the biggest mistakes that I made was like I trained everything, but I really put an emphasis on my looking good muscles. My pecs, my shoulders, what don't you see? What don't I see? My middle back. So, I did back days, a lot of training for width, but I didn't think about like the thought never crossed my mind once. I better train for stability. So what ended up happening over time was I was putting all this emphasis on like the front of my body and width and not balancing the front and the back. Really, I should be, as much as I want to build my pecs, I should be focusing on building the thickness of my back and my middle back. So I was working a lot at my computer, doing a lot of benching, things that bring your body forward. And at 20, 21 years old, I got horrible back pain, horrible back pain. And it ended up taking years for me to realize that it was posture related. And then once I started training my middle back, I started seeing significant improvement. Went from, an 8 out of 10 in terms of pain to like a 1 or a 2. It's a little uncomfortable here and there. But it was a big difference. Big difference. And I had to go through a lot of pain and a lot of money to figure out the simple solutions. The other thing that I feel called to say is sometimes like the solution might be more obvious than you think. So when I first injured my back, I was living in LA and I went to a massage therapist, and he was supposed to be like best in the business. He worked on professional athletes. And I was like, I probably have a knot. He's got to get it out. He gave me such an intense massage in a place that was already inflamed that I could barely move my neck for 3 days. For 3 days. Like, I was like this. And I went to chiropractors for years, spent thousands of dollars on chiropractic care. Not once did they say, "Hey, your back pain is caused by your posture. Here are exercises that you can do to fix that." Not once. And I went to many different chiropractors. It took me tuning into my body and being like, what's going on here? To actually realize that it was posture related. There was one specialist that really was able to help me significantly when it came to that, a mixture between, training those muscles that were weak and therapeutic massage. There's a massage therapist in Orange County that was able to help me release the muscle because he really was able to, he's masterful at what he does. And he was able to get a full release for the first time. And that really like opened the gates as well, the mixture between retraining that. So if anyone wants to be connected to him, just reach out to me on Instagram at Ryan Clarkin, or reach out to Ceara and she can connect you with me, and I'll connect you with him.
Absolutely. And I think a big piece there is in all of those treatment methods, never once was it, well, I'm just going to take some pills. I'm just going to take some pills.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we can heal, and I won't go on a big tangent about like big pharma and all of that, but we can fix a
That's
lot of
another
our own
podcast.
problems. Yeah, right. That's an episode for later down the road. We can fix a lot of our own problems. And I know for me personally, you know, I wouldn't train my core a ton because I knew that I needed to reduce body fat before I was going to worry about what those muscles look like.
Yeah.
But I would always lift more with my lower back. And after like a day outside, similar to you, I'd come in, I'd sit down. It's like, holy cow. Like, I guess I'm going to stay on the couch for tonight because I can't really get off.
Yeah.
And now that I've shifted that and know, similar to what you're saying, you've got to train the other parts too, not just what you're focused on. I can feel it as soon as I go to pick something up, my core engages, it takes that stress off my back. So knowing where you need to focus, hearing things like this, that it's not just about, does your chest look good, do your arms look good? It's a whole body approach that we really need to focus on.
And one more thing, a lot of people with back pain don't realize that in a lot of the cases, not every case, but a lot of the case, it's either because they have forward head posture because of our lifestyle, or something called an anterior pelvic tilt, where you've got like a little Donald Duck butt sticking out and your back's arching in because of how much we sit. We don't realize how much sitting and being hunched over and all the things that we do that brings our posture forward, we don't realize how much that affects our body and our back. So do some research on, do I have forward head posture? Do I have an anterior pelvic tilt? There are some exercises. Again, you can talk to ChatGPT. You can look them up on YouTube. Exercises that you can do right at home to correct those things. And if that's the cause, it'll save you a lot of money. It might even save you surgery. And also, sometimes people can have other issues that it's worth getting, checked out medically. But I think there are more people that have posture related back pain that's, related to posture than people that have actual, herniated disc spinal issues going on that need surgical remedy.
Definitely. In the sitting, I'm just glancing down at my books here. But Desk Bound is a phenomenal book that really dives into, the world that we live in sitting. And I'm gonna take a second to grab it because I want to make sure that I get it right. But it's Standing Up in a Sitting World by Kelly Starrett, and it really talks about just that, like how we're brutalizing our bodies by just sitting all the time.
Yeah,
And it's a conscious effort to not do that.
absolutely.
And when we think about sitting, right, segue to our next topic, a great one is we usually tend to pack on a few extra pounds. when we have a very sedentary lifestyle. And certainly weight loss, fat loss, super hot topics. I think personally, I think for women constantly this time of year when this episode drops, it's summertime, we're really conscious about what that looks like. And I certainly don't take the approach with myself or anybody that I work with that we're pushing for skinny, because skinny doesn't always mean healthy, but we're talking about healthy weight loss, healthy fat loss. And especially when it comes to that time piece that you said earlier about if you don't have 45 minutes, it's okay. You can get 10 minutes in. What would be the best type of workout that somebody could do if they wanted to see that rapid weight loss, but they maybe don't have a lot of time?
Mhm. Yeah, look for those segments of time that you do have in your day. And something a lot of people don't realize, probably my favorite weight loss hack is high intensity interval training. There's a study that was done on high intensity interval training that showed that when they compared high intensity interval training, which is when you're exerting yourself intensely for 10 to 30 seconds, and then allowing yourself to recover for a minute to a minute and a half, and doing that in cycles, about 5 to 7 times, for example, the body continued burning fat as a metabolic response to that exercise, or calories, for 24 to 48 hours after that workout. After that workout, I believe it might have been, I think it was 48, if I'm recalling
Yeah.
correctly. 24 to 48, it was one of those, versus like 2 to 6 hours after steady state cardio. So that's a big bang for your buck. And you can get a great hit workout in and a great hit workout in just 20 minutes. Now you can get a moderate hit workout in less. So what you want to do is you want to be resourceful. You want to do the best with what you have available. And if you have 10 minutes a day available, or you have small increments, let's say you have a baby and you put your baby in their little chair before they eat, do 10 body weight squats, like do a few jumping jacks. You can incorporate exercise through your day as well. The thing to remember too is like stay active. Set a little alarm. You can set an alarm on your phone every hour, and you can do 20 jumping jacks, or you can drop and do 10 push-ups. And if you have that activity through your day, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have a higher caloric expenditure, and it's going to support your weight loss.
Absolutely. Those little, the micro dosing of workouts.
Yeah,
That's where it really comes in. And when you don't have the time, or we think we don't have the time, right? Because if we look hard enough, we're going to find it. Um, but when you can segment it out into smaller pieces, it's sometimes easier to build that routine than saying, okay, I'm going to commit to an hour, right?
absolutely.
We commit to an hour of binge watching a show, but when it comes to moving our body, it's going to be a little bit harder of a sell.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. Something to be aware of is like, how can you make how can you incorporate exercise into your current habits? You might not feel like doing this, but if you like watching TV to decompress, and you have a treadmill in the basement, there's a TV there, like walk on the treadmill while you're watching that. Or you have a certain podcast that you like listening to, go for a walk while you listen to the podcast. Your body wants to move. Sometimes we don't realize it because we're so used to being sedentary, but your body really wants to move. Um, I would say it's interesting because I remember a point in my fitness journey where I was surprised because um just like there's a point in my journey where I was competing, and when I was competing I was like really pushing hard to get in stage ready shape. And then a few years after that I wasn't competing. I was doing weight training daily, but also in the morning, this is when I was living in the Hollywood Hills, I'd walk down to a cafe at the bottom of the hills called in Beechwood Canyon, and I would get my breakfast, and then I'd walk back up. And just that walking, I got shredded from just like the walking in the morning every day, mixed with the workouts, and then having a fairly active, when you're in California, it's just you naturally are more active. But I got almost as shredded as I was from doing that and not trying to diet or anything like that. as I was when I was like competing to be on stage. So, and doing 5 days a week of high intensity interval training with massive caloric restriction and intense weight training. So, lifestyle adjustments can be really powerful.
Definitely. And if somebody does want to lose weight and they maybe want to do it a little faster, right? We always want to focus on sustainability because fast doesn't always mean lasting. But in some cases, fast is what it is, and maybe it's not a sustainability that we're looking for at that time. But what are like the top 3 things that you would have somebody focus on if they wanted to lose weight fast?
If you want to lose weight fast, the top 3 things that you need to focus on is number 1, being in a caloric deficit. You want to be in a healthy caloric deficit, anywhere from 250, sometimes 1,000 calorie deficit could be pushing it, but you want to get the most for the least because your body is going to adapt over time. And if you want those long-term results, you got to keep that in mind. So if you can be in a 300 calorie deficit and you're losing weight, stick with that. If you diet-wise don't need to be in any deficit, but your exercise is bringing you into a calorie deficit, meaning you are burning more calories than you're taking in, then don't drop your calories at all, like nutrition-wise. And that brings me to point number 2, which is you got to track. If you not not tracking your calories and even your workouts and expecting yourself to lose weight, it's like driving on the freeway without a speedometer and wondering why you get a speeding ticket. Like, how are you going to know how fast you're going? How are you even going to know what's going on? It's like a pilot flying without instruments. It doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
Can you lose weight without doing that? You can, but you also could gain weight. So,
Yep.
like, wouldn't you rather do it in a way that works? And the easiest way to do that is to download an app like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer. I believe it's called Chronometer.
Yep.
And when you eat, log it then. Log it when you eat. Get in the habit of logging when you eat. And then the third piece is, like we talked about, implementing high intensity interval training to really accelerate that fat loss. Start at 3 times a week. You could work yourself up to 5. I wouldn't do it every day. Start at 3, and then I'll give you a bonus is if you hit a plateau, there's a hormone in the body that goes down when you diet called leptin. And the way that you break plateaus in the weight loss journey is by getting that leptin hormone back up. And how you do that is by doing something called a refeed. This is not a cheat day. A cheat day is when you just eat like crap because you're rebounding, you're being too restrictive on your diet. Doesn't work. You'll get puffy, you'll get sodium face, you'll feel miserable and sluggish. Okay. A refeed is when you'll elevate your carbs. So you might double your carbs, or let's say you're eating 180 grams of carbs a day. You might go up to 275, 300, but you drop your fats down lower on that day. And you can drop your protein a little bit too. You don't want to go into too much of a caloric surplus. You can hit maintenance, or you can go into a little bit of a caloric surplus on that day. But enjoy the carbs, okay? You could have some donuts if you want to. Like, enjoy the carbs. The carbs bring your leptin levels back up. Sends a signal to your body, hey, everything's okay. There's more than enough. And then you can go back into that caloric deficit after that, and you'll notice that you busted through that plateau and you accelerated your fat loss.
Carbs actually are our friends. They're not our enemies.
Hey, I
Awesome.
love it.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think, the tracking is huge. It can be challenging. I'll tell you, it's
Yeah.
probably the thing I struggled the most with, but it just really helps put it into perspective because when you think you're eating healthy and then you actually see it, it's like, oh, maybe we're gonna tuck that aside, not show
Yeah.
anybody that day, right?
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah,
gives you
so
the
huge.
feedback. It gives you the feedback as well to make different choices. And it gives you the freedom to not be restrictive. if I were to have followed the advice of, the bodybuilding coaches that I was meeting, they would say, all right, here's your meal plan: chicken, rice, tilapia, tilapia, spinach, sweet potato, and you're doing this for 8 to 16 weeks, and you can't have anything else. Like, you cannot cheat on this, because that's what they were taught. And then what ends up happening is the bodybuilders who follow that, they end up doing that. And then they have a cheat day and they'll gain, like, I've seen bodybuilders get insanely shredded and gain 20 to 30 pounds in like a week or two. And it's like water weight and fat,
Yo.
because they binge, because they're so restrictive and it's not normal. And then they binge after the competition. And it's like, that's not the way to do it. When you track, you give yourself the freedom. It's called flexible dieting. It used to be very well known as if it fits your macros. Macros are your proteins, your carbs, your fats. And again, if you need somebody to tell you, hey, this is how many proteins, carbs, fats, calories that you need to be eating to lose weight, reach out to Ceara. But basically, when you'll get a threshold and you'll be able to eat. And let's say you eat relatively clean the first half of the day and you have a lot of space left, and you see like a tasty cookie, or like you want to go out for ice cream and you realize that you actually have like 50 grams of carbs left, you can you can put the ice cream or whatever it is inside your app and see if it fits. And if it fits, you can enjoy yourself. And that way you're not on this like restrictive diet that ends up leading to things like binge eating. When it comes to the everyday person, I've never seen somebody that isn't competing like succeed when it comes to a meal plan. Back in my prime days of fitness coaching, meal plans were my worst enemy. And the worst enemy is I would never have given my clients a meal plan. What I did was I figured out what are the things that you love to eat, and I would give them a menu, not a meal plan. I would say, hey, here are meals that fit really well into your macros. Here's what I would suggest, but you have the freedom to eat what you want as long as you hit your macro goals every day.
Yep. And that's a huge part of it, right? Like we're all going to like something different. And you maybe have crash dieted before. I think we probably all have. And you can sustain that only for so long. And then you literally have like that one cookie, and before you know it, the whole sleeve is gone. It's like, oh, how did that happen?
Yeah.
But it's because you do that and it's not sustainable, right? And it's not really building a lifestyle that's going to keep you on that yo-yo path of the ups and downs, and never just really feeling happy with your results because they're like fleeting. It's going to be gone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to come back to something that you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, and with your personal fitness journey and being self-conscious and not comfortable really in your own body, right? You didn't want certainly to be around other people. And when we think about women, we think about health and, fitness and the whole package. There is this image in society, and I don't want to bag on Barbie. Barbie's great. Barbie's coming out with a diabetic Barbie, right? So kids with type 1 diabetes can feel included too. I think that's fantastic. But back in, 70s, 80s, when she was prime, that kind of became the image of what women should look like. And it's not a reality for
Yeah.
more people than not, right? You've got that handful who can probably do that, but they probably have a chef in their kitchen and they've got, everybody doing this for them. And like just some open discussion about, chasing that image and the pressure of societal norms, and how we can work to break some of those and really come to grips with that's not necessarily reality. That's not necessarily healthy. This is what's healthy for me. This is what my body looks like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first let's acknowledge how scary it is that a company so long ago created this archetype of what a woman should look like. And then from all these women from a very young age put their focus on this doll. And you look at I'm not going to name any names, but You look at some of the biggest, icons or like role models in terms of like what a woman should look like. And it's representative of that. And it's scary. And they're going through pain. They're getting surgery in many cases. They're taking things that will affect their health negatively that they don't even realize, paying a very big price in the short term. It may cost them years of their life in the long term. And so the biggest effect is the effect that it has on everyday people. And it's comparing yourself to this false image that another person created and said, this is what's attractive. This is what's the most attractive. This is what's acceptable. This is what's worthy of being loved. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's important to make that distinction between an idea that somebody created and what's actual reality and what's healthy. And so the question that you want to be in is not, how can I become the most attractive for the people around me? It's, what is the healthiest and most vibrant expression of myself? And obesity is not healthy. So don't let yourself rationalize that. Like people do that. They're overweight. They're like, I love my body. I'm healthy the way that I am. If you're obese, you're not. You're not. And no one's saying that, and it needs to be said. Your risk for diabetes goes up, your risk for cancer goes up, your heart disease risk goes up, costs you time in your life. Now, what I'm not saying is that you need to look a certain way. You can do whatever you want with your body. It's your life, it's your choices. The question I would invite you in as somebody that's been a stand for people's health and wellness is, when it comes to you, what is the healthiest, happiest expression of your body? And not happy from the place of comparing yourself to the magazine covers, but healthy in terms of when you're active, when you're eating healthy, when you're active consistently, when you're optimized, when you're getting great sleep. How does your body want to look? And hey, maybe it's okay not to feel the need to push to the extremes, to go and buy these fat burners and put stress on your heart, or you know in a lot of cases, men taking steroids, even women taking steroids to fill an image. When did we become so insecure that we needed, and when did we feel so lonely that we need to become an image to fit in and be accepted and loved? So really, I think the most important piece is that question: what is the healthiest expression of yourself? And how can you become that? And if you focus on that every single day, you will end up looking great. And if you learn to let go and heal that conditioning that was never really yours to begin with, eventually, maybe sooner than eventually, you'll end up accepting yourself and loving yourself and becoming confident and looking amazing, even if amazing isn't fitness model. Because if you're a busy mom and you're taking care of, you know, 3, 4 kids, or you're a single mom and you have 20 minutes that you can work out a day and you're getting those 20 minutes in, you're fucking winning. You're winning.
100%.
If you struggled with your lifestyle and you did end up gaining weight and you are 100, you were 100 pounds overweight 6 months ago, and now you're still overweight, but you're 60 pounds overweight instead of 100, you're winning. So it's all subjective. And what I would say is, focus on how you can become the healthiest version of yourself. Focus on the small wins. Those small wins compounded over time turn into big wins.
Absolutely. And I want to take a second to point out, myself, we didn't get into the shape that we're in overnight. And, Ryan, you shared your story here. If you go back and listen to our intro episode, you'll hear some of mine. But at my heaviest, I was 197 pounds. I probably broke 200 at some point. I just never got on the scale to know it.
Mm,
And all during that time, it felt like everybody knew it.
mm,
Like, instead of being, Flava Flav with the clock around the neck, I felt like I was Ceara with the scale around the neck and just flashed what
love
I
that.
had.
Mm,
And once you realize that, okay, it is time for a change, right? This pain of staying the same is far greater than the pain and discomfort it's going to be to start getting off my ass and doing something. And when you start to see those results, it's funny because you break up with all of those things that you said and what you think people are thinking of you. And you start to think of yourself as, I look good, I'm confident, I don't care. A big thing for women, right, is our jean sizes, right? No
mm,
two brands are the same. And, you know, nobody wants to know what the tag says, right? Nobody else knows, but who cares? And when you start to build that personal confidence, that should be your driver,
right.
not what everybody in your circle thinks you should look like, or, you know, the people who fat shamed you before. Now they're going to health shame you because you're not going to go out and drink all night and binge eat with them. And it's understanding just that contrast. And as you work towards that, it's going to start to come out, and you are going to start to feel better about the choices that you're making.
Absolutely. And the strongest thing that you can do on your fitness journey is to get support. If you've been struggling to do it on your own, I mean, the reason why you're listening to this podcast is because you want to elevate your health, your wellness, you want to be the best version of yourself. If you're struggling, one of the wisest things that you could do is get help. The most successful people that I've coached in business, mindset, fitness in the past have been the people that even when they're doing well and crushing it, they still get support because they're like, I want to be at my best. And that's why I was so excited to be on this podcast with Ceara, because Ceara is an incredible coach. And definitely, if you are feeling like I'm ready to transform my body, I'm ready to upgrade my health, continue listening to this episode. And when you're ready, if not now, there's no better time than now. Reach out to Ceara, see how she can help you, support you, coach you, empower you on your fitness journey. Hey, if I was still doing fitness, I would say, hey, reach out to me, but I'm not. So I'll share the next best thing.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. And you can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads at Ceara Carrier. We have a website. We'll drop that link in the show notes for you. But yeah, there is more shame in not raising your hand to say, hey, help me out, than there is. And you know what? It might not be, Ryan still gives me some fitness advice, right?
Yeah.
I'm making this podcast because he's coaching me through how to build a sustainable business, right? And get out of the 9 to 5 desk job. So we all can use some type of coaching. So if you're if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I think about these body image people, right? And they probably did it all on their own. No, they probably didn't. And it's okay, because if we could all do it on our own, all of us, myself included, would be in tip top notch shape. We would never have a bad day, and we wouldn't even need to make this podcast right now. I could be doing something else. I don't know what I'd be doing, but I could be doing something else, right? So ask
Yeah.
for that help, raise your hand. People do genuinely want to help you. It's just getting that conversation started.
Yeah, and having that coach, it's not just about having someone to help you put a protocol in place, create a workout plan that's helpful and that helps you reach your goals, but it's also about having somebody there so that you can bounce back when you fall off. So I can't tell you how many times I've been a coach and somebody fell off and I was there to help them bounce back. And it would have taken, sometimes when we fall down, it takes us months to bounce back. But when we have support, we can turn a month into a moment, and we can bounce back in a moment. And so that's one of the things that I believe is like the most valuable thing about having a coach in your corner to support you.
Definitely. And when we think about, that getting started, right? And we talk about, the busy moms, right? Or you're a wife or you're a career woman, whatever it is you have going on. I don't want to say what your identity is because you build that, right? It doesn't happen because of your circumstance. But let's focus on those moms, right? You've got the kids, you're running them to this sport, that sport. You got I see it at my sister's house. There's like 8 baskets of laundry and there's only 4 of them. Like, where does all this laundry come from? And they just can't seem to find the time. How can we help them find that time to start to move that needle forward when their desire is there, but they're just not sure how to get there?
Yeah. So one of the things that I would suggest is, well, here's the thing that I would say. We make time. It's not about finding the time, it's about making the time. Our brain, our ego, it's so good at keeping us stuck in our comfort zone. So our brain is really good at making excuses even when it feels real. Like if you feel overwhelmed and you have a lot going on and you're in constant reaction to all the craziness that's going on, it feels very real. Like, hey, I don't have freaking time. But when 5 minutes opens up, well, here's what I'd say. Do you got time to go to the bathroom? You're taking care of that somehow. So if you have time to go to the bathroom, then when you're going to the bathroom, take a few breaths and do a time audit of of your entire day. I'm doing this, I'm doing this. When do I have 10 moments? When do I have 10 minutes? When do I have 15 minutes? I have never coached somebody that wasn't able to make time for what was important to them. Never. So you've got to you have to make the time, and like there's no other way to go about it. If you want something, you got to make the time, and sometimes that means like, hey, maybe you don't have to do everything. Like, what are some things that you can outsource? Like, you're taking an hour to go to the grocery store, like Instacart it, okay? And that may not be a viable solution for everyone, but you've got to get in possibility. Where can you ask for support? Where can you bring support in? Where can you empower people to maybe you have unconsciously built a relationship with your kid where they're over dependent on you, and you need to empower them, like, hey, like, you actually don't need help with this anymore. Like, you can do this. You can do this yourself. And so that's something to consider too, because that might be taking your time. And then you can focus, or maybe you need to implement more boundaries. Like, if you got on a call with Ceara and you guys did a complete audit of your entire day, I bet you could find 45 minutes to an hour that you could be investing in your health and your fitness on a daily basis. So I've
And it
experienced.
doesn't mean we're going to take away all the things you love.
Yeah. I can't
Right.
recall one time where someone's like, yeah, I don't have the time. And we really looked and they actually had the time.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I believe you and I have had that conversation many times. So,
We might have. Yeah.
it's there. With your journey, right? It's been phenomenal just in the few years that I've known you, and we continue to build our relationship. But if you could go back to the beginning of your fitness journey and give yourself some advice, what is the most important piece of advice that you could give yourself?
If I could go back in time and give myself advice when I first started my fitness, I would say the habit is the secret. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging for the first 3 to 4 weeks. But once you get that down, all you have to do is keep the habit and the rest will take care of itself. Yes, there are little things that you could do to optimize, but the habit is the foundation. I've had times in my journey where I lost track of the habit and it took me months to get back on track. So if you just keep the habit, don't let go of the habit, you build that habit, you push through the resistance, you move through that initial phase of it's going to be challenging at first. It's going to be hard at first. But that challenge is your brain rewiring neural pathways to build a habit, okay? If construction workers complained that it was difficult to build a freeway, we wouldn't be able to get around. They're like, "Oh, I can't build a freeway because it's too." It's too hard. It's too hot outside. I'm not going to do it. We wouldn't be able to get anywhere.
Yep.
So yeah, you're reconstructing, you're transforming it. It takes energy. You're creating change. It can be tough. It can be challenging. But once you build that habit and those neural pathways in your brain, it becomes so much easier. And we have habits for a reason. It's the way that the brain creates efficiency. And so your brain wants to build habits. It wants to keep old habits. It wants to build new habits. And habits can be a superpower once you really build them. That's what I would say.
Well, we have certainly covered a lot. We've given a lot of, helpful nuggets that people can start to focus on, that women can really hone in on. But I really want to take just a few minutes, and I want to leave our listeners with some super simple things that they can start to do right now. Like as you're getting done listening to this podcast, you can start doing these things to move towards that healthier lifestyle. So if someone has been feeling off, right? I say in a funk, I try not to label it because I know what that can turn into. But if they've been feeling that way, what is one thing that they can start doing to instantly feel better?
If you are in a funk, the fastest thing you can do right now to instantly start feeling better is to surrender. Okay. What you resist persists. Do not resist the funk because the funk will continue. Okay. So when we resist the funkiness, when we're in a funk and we start judging ourselves and making ourselves wrong for feeling the way that we do, we just go into a downward spiral of self beat up. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be working out. I should be feeling more productive. And we should on ourselves. And that's funky. But when we surrender and we're like, okay, hey, it's normal as a human being to have highs and lows. It's completely okay for me to feel this way. I'm going to just slow down. I'm going to surrender to it and trust that I'm going to start feeling better. And once I do, I'm going to start taking action. That's the path forward. Oftentimes it's an energy game. So you're feeling in a funk because your energy is low. You have to recharge your batteries and you will instantly start feeling better because you're removing that judgment from yourself, and the spiral will go from downwards to upwards. And before you know it, you'll be feeling empowered and back on track.
And what is one thing that somebody could start doing right now, start doing today to become instantly healthier?
One thing you can do right now to become instantly healthier in the summer is 15 to 20 minutes of sun exposure without sunscreen. Anytime after that, make sure you put sunscreen on to protect your skin. But this is a prime time to get your vitamin D. If you're listening to this during the winter, one thing that you can instantly do in the winter to start feeling better immediately is realize that winter is actually in a lot of ways about calming down, slowing down, recovery, hibernation. I mean, you could still have a lot of success in the winter, but prioritize the anabolic versus the catabolic. One thing that you can instantly do during the winter to start feeling better is to optimize your sleep. Optimize your sleep. Your body wants to rest a little bit more in the winter. So if you can optimize your sleep, really dial in your nighttime routine, you're going to start feeling a lot better. And Ceara, remember vitamin D supplements?
I do. I still take them. Total game changer.
Yeah, you should share that story real quick.
Yeah, so it was shortly after we fell back, right? And living up in Maine, it's dark here early. You don't get a lot of sun, and I was just not okay. Right? Like I knew something was off. I didn't know what it was. I was tired, I had no energy, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and Ryan and I had a call, and I basically flat out told, like, I'm in a funk. Like I'm stuck. I don't know what's going on. And we started talking, about some of the supplements I was taking, and it had a little bit of vitamin D in it, but it wasn't even close enough to get me enough. You know, it actually got me to do a little bit of research. If you live above the 37th parallel, you're at risk for lower vitamin D in the winter, right? Because we have the darker days and shorter days. And so I took vitamin D. I took it, I don't even think I was on it for a week. I think it was like 3 or 4 days. And the difference that I noticed with my mood, my energy, my, cognitive function, because I didn't have that brain fog all the time,
Mm,
huge. Like, no
yeah.
affiliation with a vitamin D company, but find one, take it. It it makes such a difference.
Yeah, I think you were at like I asked you how much vitamin D does the supplement have in it, and it was anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 IUs. It might have been
Yeah.
1,000 IUs, and I was like, "Sierra, that's not enough. Like, we
Not
gotta
even
get you."
close.
And then what are you taking now? 5,000 a
I
day?
take 5,000 now.
Yeah,
Yep, once a
yeah,
day.
and like it was night and day. Once you
Yeah.
started taking that for a few days, like you're back to yourself. So
Yep.
yeah, that was amazing, and that's something very important to be mindful of during the winter for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're struggling with that, and not to say there couldn't be, other things going on, but before you take yourself off the deep end that, "Oh my god, I have seasonal depression or something's going on," just take a quick audit. Like, what are you getting for that sunlight? What are you taking for vitamin D? And again, huge game changer. And speaking of that, and feeling happier and things like that, what is the best psychology hack that you know of for instant happiness?
The best psychology hack for instant happiness is to let go of your expectations. So, expectations are predetermined resentments. That's expectations of yourself and others. When you let go of expectations, you get out of the future and you drop into the present moment. So, one of the biggest things I learned as a mindset coach is that our mental states of suffering often come from either the future or the past, our perception of the future or the past, worrying about the future, what ifs, or ruminating on the past, depression. But when you can learn to let go of expectations, you drop into the present moment. And when we're in the present moment, we're focusing on what is. And that's where we naturally are meant to be. And it's a fast track to happiness.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, because there's a lot of things out there, but is there a health hack right now that you're obsessed with?
Yeah. Cold exposure is so underrated. So I absolutely love, and again, it depend. This is a me question. So some people, it depends on the person. Now, how cold it is, I don't always love it, but like a cold shower in SoCal, it's not super cold. It's like cold enough, but I do like when it gets pretty cold. And what I do is I really focus on drenching my head in the cold water. It's great for the blood brain barrier and the health of the blood brain barrier. I feel so much clearer. It elevates your dopamine, which is the motivation chemical, by 250%. And I remember times back when I led leadership workshops and I wasn't getting as much sleep because we went late and started pretty early. And in my sleep deprived state, I would turn the shower all the way cold and I would feel on fire and brand new. So then I was able to go from there. So it's a great hack as well if you're energetically compromised, not getting the best sleep. So yeah, I love cold exposure. I also believe there are few things that are as good for reducing anxiety than cold exposure. One of the best hacks for reducing anxiety instantly is cold exposure. And you might think, no, why would I do that? I would freak out in the cold. But when you drop into a cold plunge, for example, you're activating the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve, it regulates your nervous system. And every time I've done cold exposure, if I'm in a more of an anxious state, the rest of the day, I'm completely zenned out and at peace. It is an absolute game changer.
Definitely. So that's one of those things where I'm going to suggest, even if you don't like the cold water, try it. I personally hate doing cold exposure because I don't like the cold water, but it works. So work it in somehow. I don't do it every day, but there are times where it's like, you know what? I'm gonna finish up my shower, right? I'm still gonna keep it super hot. And then I'm gonna give myself like a minute, 2 minutes in and out, right? I'm not just like staying in there, but giving that time. And as much as I hate it, and those are probably like the worst 2 minutes of my day, they make the other, 23 hours and 58 minutes fantastic. Like, so definitely just give it a shot.
Love it.
Just give it a
Love it.
shot. Awesome. Well, Ryan, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come here, hang out with me, help get this podcast kicked off. I, look forward to and hope that you will be back on future episodes, and we'll obviously make sure everybody knows about that because, there is so much more that we can talk about, we will talk about, that I just look forward to. And just thank you again for being here.
Of course, my pleasure. And for everyone listening, if this was helpful for you, feel free to share this on Instagram, on any social media, tag me. Would love to connect with you and hear your biggest takeaway. And Ceara, thank you so much for creating this podcast, for launching this, for keeping the hearts, the bodies, the minds of women who want to get in the best shape of their life in mind through launching this podcast and having me on as your first guest. I'm extremely honored. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody who listened. And again, if this was helpful for you, drop us a review, share this out. And if you do want to get connected with Ryan, we will also have ways to connect with him in our show notes.
Awesome. Thanks.